Handle people at work who stress you out tomorrow at 9.
On World News Tonight this Tuesday, another mystifying shooting in a school. The shooters were very young. We'll take a closer look at school violence in general. The President's Day in Africa nagged by questions about executive privilege. Does it extend to the First Lady and her conversations? And why is the International Space Station billions of dollars over budget? What does NASA have to say? It is your money.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. They were so young, which only enhances the shock. The shooters, that is, were so young, and most of those who were shot as well at a middle school in northeastern Arkansas this afternoon. The boys with the guns were 11 and 13, we are told. They killed 4 people and wounded a dozen. All over the country today, people wondered, why has it happened again, and where might it happen next? First with the details, ABC's Morton Dean.
The deadly shooting spree appeared to have been well-planned, an ambush, kids shooting kids. The authorities so far have suggested this deadly scenario. One student, perhaps an accomplice of the killers, pulling a fire alarm in the school. The students, 6th and 7th graders, filing outside in orderly fashion.
And we heard the fire alarm, and then we all started coming out, and then we heard shots, just a few, and then we saw our principal coming at us and yelling at us, telling us to go in the gym. And they had locked the doors and just told us, and as we were walking, we saw bodies laying on the ground.
Police say 2 of their classmates, aged 11 and 13, wearing camouflage clothing, had been lying in wait in a wooded area near the school. They opened fire. They were arrested.
There was some high-power type rifles and pistols. They were heavily armed.
As the heartbreaking news spread through Jonesboro, the town erupted with fear, panic, concern.
People just started rushing in, parents freaking out. I got here very chaotic. I mean, everybody was just crying. I saw folks with blood on their clothes.
The governor of Arkansas spoke philosophically and with a sense of resignation about the times in which our children live.
It makes me angry, not so much at individual children who have done it, as much as it does angry at a world in which such a thing can happen.
And this evening, Jonesboro, Arkansas is wondering why it had to happen here. Morton Dean, ABC News.
Later in the broadcast, we're going to take a closer look at violence in the country's schools. Could it be, today's tragedy notwithstanding, that appearances about violence in schools are actually deceiving? In other news, in Washington today, it doesn't matter that the president isn't there. The political establishment is still deeply engaged in a debate about executive privilege and whether, in the Monica Lewinsky case, the president and the first lady are entitled to it. In other words, how protected are their conversations and under what circumstances? Here's ABC's Jackie Judd.
The White House is arguing that First Lady Hillary Clinton is also an advisor to the president. And in that capacity, her conversations with other White House advisors should be off limits to the independent counsel. When senior advisor Sidney Blumenthal went before the grand jury 3 weeks ago to be questioned about the Monica Lewinsky matter, he refused to answer prosecutors' questions about advice he had given not only to the president, but also to Mrs. Clinton. Historically, executive privilege gives the president the right to confidential deliberations with his aides. But a court decision involving former Agriculture Secretary Mike Espy broadened the definition to also cover discussions among White House aides even when the president is not there, as long as official presidential matters are being discussed. The question now is whether the First Lady legally qualifies as a presidential advisor.
Including the president's wife in a claim of executive privilege is frankly quite a stretch. That has not been done before. The Clinton White House tried to do it once before, and they thought better of it.
Lawyers close to the White House point to Mrs. Clinton's earlier work on health care reform as proof that she does serve as an advisor.
But those same lawyers privately conceded it may be difficult to prove the conversations dealt with official business and not personal matters. And they worry that this will all create an impression that the White House has something to hide or is trying to slow down the investigation by several months while the legal issues are fought out in the courts. Peter?
Thanks, Jackie. Jackie Judd in Washington tonight. The president, of course, would like Washington and the press to concentrate only on his Africa trip. It was scheduled before Monica Lewinsky made it into the headlines. Mr. Clinton is in Uganda today. He got a very warm reception, and yes, he got some questions about executive privilege as well. ABC Sam Donaldson reports from Kampala.
First photo op of the day. A meeting with Ugandan President Museveni. And President Clinton wasn't happy to be asked about possibly asserting executive privilege in situations involving his wife.
Look, that's a question that's being asked and answered back home by the people who are responsible to do that. All I know is I saw an article about it in the paper today. I haven't discussed it with the lawyers. I don't know. You should ask someone who doesn't.
In fact, only the president can assert executive privilege. So his saying he doesn't know is puzzling. Would Mrs. Clinton know?
Mrs. Clinton, have your lawyers invoked privilege, and is that necessary?
And when you follow the president's request to ask someone back home, as ABC News did, no one is answering questions there either, saying the matter is before the courts. But when it comes to the subject of his African trip, the president seemed sure-footed today. Here it was the children of a model school near Kampala who greeted the president, singing and dancing with such force that the two presidents got caught up in the moment. Mr. Clinton played to an audience, waiting to hear that America cared.
The United States has not always done the right thing by Africa. European Americans received the fruits of the slave trade, and we were wrong in that as well.
Not quite an apology. The president is said to have decided not to go that far on this trip, but most welcome to Uganda's only Catholic cardinal, Emmanuel Wamala. But the president of the United States, I think, had not said that before.
Perhaps they haven't, but I've heard it from this one, and he was right in saying it.
And tomorrow, the president will be put to another test in saying the right thing. He makes a quick trip to Rwanda, scene of such horrible genocide 4 years ago, at which time Mr. Clinton was criticized for not doing enough to try to stop it. Because of Rwanda's turmoil, he won't leave the airport for security reasons. Sam Donaldson, ABC News, in Kampala, Uganda.
Thank you, Sam. We'll return to Uganda later in the program. There have been some remarkable changes in that country. In just a moment, we'll have some of the day's other news. Saddam Hussein has thrown one of his chief germ warfare specialists into prison. What does this mean to the United States? And the International Space Station behind schedule and billions of dollars over budget. Is your money getting lost in space?
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, brought to you by Just for Men.
Man, this gray hair makes me look old.
Then do what I did. Get rid of it.
You were gray? I never knew that.
No one can tell you use the remarkable hair coloring called Just for Men. Simply shampoo in, then rinse. In only 5 minutes, this unique Just for Men formula blends away the gray, actually matches your gray to your real color.
Even I can't tell what used to be gray. Thanks.
Just for Men. Looks so natural, even friends can't tell.
Something's gotten into Sunsweet Pros. Something sort of lemon. Delicious lemon essence from Sunsweet. It's prunes with a twist.
Diane loves a good challenge, and this is it. Get the Advil ready. Advil means freedom from headaches fast. Headaches to muscle aches. Advil simply lets people do what they love to do.
We learned today that a senior official in Iraq's biological weapons program has been put in prison by Saddam Hussein. His name is Nasser al-Hindawi, and his arrest is important for several reasons, not least because he may have been willing to tell the United Nations more about Iraq's weapons of mass destruction. ABC's Richard Gisbert reports from Baghdad.
Dr. Nasser al-Hindawi held a senior position at Al-Hakam, a complex outside Baghdad where Iraq has admitted to growing agents for biological weapons. UN inspectors had interviewed Dr. al-Hindawi in the past and found him helpful. The Iraqis said today they arrested him because he was trying to defect with sensitive documents.
That was against the laws, and he should have turned that onto the Iraqi authorities.
Today, a UN official said that had he defected, Dr. al-Hindawi would have been a prized source of intelligence. Defectors can instantly reveal detailed information that investigators can search for months and perhaps never find.
If he were in the position that they suspected he was in, then he would have all the information they would want to know about the chemical and biological weapons programs.
Today, the UN's chief inspector would say only that the Iraqis had informed him of the arrest.
There has been a little correspondence, but quite frankly, I won't go into it.
The UN wants to focus on recent Iraqi cooperation, the positives in the inspection process. But the arrest of a man who knows so much will only reinforce suspicions that Iraq still has a lot to hide. Richard Gisbert, ABC News, Baghdad.
Well, you've already heard part of this. In Moscow, Boris Yeltsin said he was just trying to shake things up when he fired his cabinet yesterday. But now he's apparently changed his mind. The Russian president says now that most of the cabinet will keep their jobs, not including the prime minister, but the foreign minister, Evgeny Primakov, and the defense minister, Igor Sergeyev, will keep theirs. On Wall Street today, the Dow Jones Industrials gained more than 88 points to close at 89.04. On the NASDAQ, market stocks gained just under 20 points. The Senate cast one unanimous vote today. Lake Champlain, which covers parts of both New York and Vermont, is not going to be a Great Lake after all. It got Great Lake status, you may remember, only 18 days ago, when Vermont's Senator Patrick Leahy slipped it by the Senate so that colleges near the lake would qualify for Great Lakes federal research money. Other senators caught on. The colleges will still get the money, but Lake Champlain will only be pretty good. In just a moment, Jonesboro, Arkansas, Paducah, Kentucky, Pearl, Mississippi, violence in the schools. We'll take a closer look.
It's happening everywhere. People are discovering Accolade for asthma. Accolade is a non-steroid pill you take daily in the morning and in the evening to help control asthma symptoms all day and while you sleep. If you use a rescue inhaler more than twice a week and are 12 or older, ask your doctor if adding Accolade to your current asthma therapy may help reduce your reliance on your inhaler and help give you more control. However, Accolade is not for acute asthma attacks. For more information about Accolade and a rebate offer, call 1-800-237-4853. Accolade for asthma, because having more control can make a difference. Accolade is generally well tolerated by most patients. Talk to your doctor before changing your current asthma treatment, if you are nursing, taking blood thinners, or if your medical condition worsens. Side effects may include headache, infection, and nausea. To discover more about Accolade for asthma, call today or talk with your doctor.
I admit it. I don't like to take risks.
That's why a Merrill Lynch Protected Growth investment is right for my IRA. In effect, I'm investing in the stock market, but I get the earning potential of a rising market without risking all my principal, even if stocks decline dramatically. My Merrill Lynch financial consultant recommended Protected Growth for my retirement because he knows I like to play it safe. With my money, that is.
I'll tell you, I love the way this looks and feels. It's just like an expensive carpet. It's beautiful. This is it. This is my baby, my secret. It's a no-brainer. I mow it, I water it, and throw down Scott's turf builder. Keeps it nice and green and nice and plush all summer long. I want my house to look great, and the lawn plays a key part of it. My wife's in charge of the gardens, and she puts responsibility of the lawns on me. It's not competitive, but I can't screw up. I recommend Scott to my neighbors all the time.
Because of the Arkansas shooting today, we're going to take a closer look at violence and potential violence in schools. Some people were surprised today when they heard that a shooting had occurred in the otherwise quiet environment of Jonesboro, Arkansas, not far from the Tennessee border. But last time it was Paducah, Kentucky, and before that, Pearl, Mississippi. None of these places fit the long-standing stereotype of the blackboard jungle in some of America's tougher big cities. So much for stereotypes. Last December, 3 kids were killed during a prayer meeting at the high school in Paducah. At Pearl High in Mississippi, a 16-year-old armed with a shotgun killed 2 of his classmates and wounded 9 others. But even with these truly shocking examples of violence in schools, the big picture for the country as a whole is a little different and maybe not all bad. Here's ABC's Michelle Norris.
Despite the national perception that American schools are turning into combat zones, a national report released just last week found that most American schools are indeed safe. 43% reported no crimes whatsoever. 57% reported incidents of fights, thefts, or vandalism. Only 10% of schools, most in large cities, reported serious crimes, including rape, robbery, or homicide.
I think we could say that the American schools are safer than most communities that the children come from.
The Department of Education is releasing a second report next week, which finds that violence in American schools has leveled off, an indication that metal detectors and zero-tolerance laws are working. But what worries educators are incidents like today's shooting, the growing number of multiple homicides in rural and suburban areas where schools are less likely to use security measures. Overall, violence like this is still rare, but not rare enough. Michelle Norris, ABC News, Washington.
So as Michelle reports, most violent crimes in schools of late are happening in rural areas by younger children and using more powerful weapons. A short while ago, in search of answers, we talked to Ronald Stevens, director of the National Safety Center, and we asked him why this might be so.
That's probably the $64,000 question as to why. One of the things that we know is that these youngsters who commit these crimes, many of them themselves have been victims of crime or violence. These youngsters have seen violence occur, and others is the way they need to react to a problem that they might have.
Do you think these suburban and particularly rural schools are more vulnerable than, say, the inner-city schools?
In a sense, some of them may be more vulnerable because our inner-city schools have tended to place school safety on the education agenda. They've developed safe school plans. They are utilizing more metal detectors. They are increasing their adult supervision. And the administrators in many of the other places all have a common theme. They say they never thought it would happen here.
So if you were running a rural school, you should never think it can't happen here.
Every school should have a safe school plan in place, involve the students, involve the parents, put school safety on the education agenda, and despite all the high-tech strategies that we have, the single most effective strategy for keeping schools safe is the physical presence of a responsible adult.
And is it terribly important that school administrators know their students?
Critically important that they know the students, that they know them by name, that they know the issues and problems that they bring to school, because youngsters typically don't just come to a campus and start pulling the trigger of a gun. There's been some early warning signs somewhere.
Mr. Stevens, thanks very much. Tomorrow on the broadcast, we'll see what we can understand to a greater degree about Jonesboro. And we'll be back in just a moment this evening with Your Money.
Sun is rising.
It's a great day for the comfort and convenience of changing tint Transitions lenses. Indoors, they lighten. Outdoors, they darken. So lightweight plastic Transitions lenses are right in any light. Make the change to Transitions lenses and see for yourself. Come to a JCPenney Optical Center and save 40%. Check your yellow pages for a participating location.
Hi, I'm David Orrick, and this is the fabulous Windsor Court Hotel, one of the top 20 hotels in the world.
They use my amazing 8-pound Oreck XL.
And now you can use it too, risk-free. So you can take the Oreck Challenge. Vacuum your carpet with your present vacuum, then vacuum it again with my 8-pound Oreck XL. You'll be amazed at what my Oreck XL, even at 8 pounds, picked up. Call for your 15-day home trial. Pile lifting roller brushes whirl at an incredible 6,500 RPMs. Its hypoallergenic top-fill design maintains professional cleaning power all the time. Call, and I'll also send you my Oreck Compact Vacuum absolutely free. It's so powerful, it'll even pick up a bowling ball. So take the Oreck Challenge. If I tried this with a lesser vacuum, I'd have to have my head examined. Call 1-800-454-4700. 1-800-454-4700.
Life's an adventure because you're over 50 and still exploring. So take the Centrum made just for you, Centrum Silver, with age-essential nutrients specially adjusted to keep pace with your changing nutritional needs. Centrum Silver, it's a great time to be silver.
My husband told me something terrific. You can strengthen your teeth.
With Mentadent, you can. Fresh from the pump, Mentadent activates on contact to power fluoride to tooth enamel, penetrating to strengthen teeth. Mentadent, pump strength into your teeth every time you brush.
For our weekly report on how the government spends your money, a project where the government has been spending a lot of money for a very long time. The International Space Station was supposed to be relatively cheap and easy to build. At least that's what NASA said 4 years ago. So what is NASA saying now? Here's ABC's John Martin.
You've heard this, right? NASA is billions of dollars over budget on the space station it is assembling here in Florida. But here's something you may not have heard. It seems NASA tried to hide the overrun from Congress.
I'm saying that NASA did not notify us of the latest and several before cost overruns.
Why would NASA do that? Maybe embarrassment. 4 years ago, Congress seemed on the verge of killing the station. It was so over budget. But the agency begged for one last chance. It literally took a vow that it would keep costs in line.
Back then, program manager Randy Brinkley insisted things would be different or else.
We have to stay on budget. We have to stay on schedule.
If you go over budget, what happens to you?
If I go over budget, the next time you drive through a McDonald's here in Clear Lake, I'll be probably, I'll be at the drive-through window.
4 years later, NASA is assembling parts. Randy Brinkley's boss says he's doing a great job. So we asked.
Space station on schedule?
It's behind schedule.
Is it on budget?
It's over budget.
20% over, or $3.6 billion. That's what NASA has quietly asked Congress to come up with. But an analysis due out Friday reportedly puts that number at $6 billion. And Randy Brinkley, is he going into fast foods?
Well, I regret that the events over the last 4 years have added cost to the program and to our customers, the American people.
The reality is that they have experienced these cost overruns. They're very disturbing.
Doubly disturbing, says McCain, because NASA tried to hide the fact. And now, after 4 years of broken promises, the station is as much as $6 billion over budget. It's your money. John Martin, ABC News, Cape Canaveral, Florida.
And still on the subject of your money, yesterday we told you about the highway bill working its way through Congress. Late today, the House Transportation Committee approved it with a 69-0 vote. $217 billion over 6 years on roads and mass transit. In it is spending of more than $9 billion on 1,500 special projects in different congressional districts. How much waste is there? We'll keep you posted. In just a moment, how one country is fighting and maybe winning now against AIDS.
With all the information about pain relievers, you may not know what to choose. Your doctor knows. The pain reliever they trust most is Tylenol. In fact, doctors have recommended Tylenol even more this year than last year. Tylenol combines the strength and the safety that's unsurpassed for everyday pain. For over 20 years, it's been the first choice of doctors and hospitals. Tylenol, the pain reliever hospitals use most.
The snow is deep, the sun is shining, and the lift tickets are just $30. Mountwood Meadows, because you love the sun. Ha ha ha.
Experience the power of 2. Channel 2 News.
There is a food that more children eat than any other for breakfast. A meal shown to improve their school performance in the morning. That food is
If you can do this, you can make wood beautiful with Minwax. And if you can do this, you can give wood lasting protection. Turning a house into a beautiful home is as easy as turning to Minwax.
Does tossing one of these into your tank kill germs? Who knows? Until now. Introducing Lysol Continuous Action Automatic Toilet Cleaner. It not only cleans and deodorizes, it kills germs. No other automatic toilet cleaner kills more. Until you have our word on it, you can't call it clean.
Is a big odor invading your little space? Stop it with Wizard Stick-Ups. And stick up for fresh air.
Tonight,
I have cancer in my prostate.
these are tough times for Andy.
I'm a good friend.
But at the 15th precinct,
I've got a gun in this pocket.
things just got worse.
Unhook the handcuffs.
New Blue, tonight, viewer discretion advised.
Hi, I'm Steve Dunn. More local news at 6:30 after the deadly rafting accident. The rules of the river are about to change, and we'll show you how some victims of violent crimes can track their attackers after they're released from prison at 6:30.
Finally, this evening, we're going to return to Uganda for the good news. There was a time in the 1970s when Uganda was one of the most terrifying places in all of Africa. The dictator Idi Amin was in charge. Violent death was everywhere. The economy was a disaster. But today, when President Clinton talks about a renaissance in Africa, he's talking in part about Uganda. And we have a report tonight about one particular lesson that the world has learned from Uganda. First, they denied it, and then they learned how to deal with AIDS. Here's ABC's Sheila McVicker.
Beneath the banana trees lie the graves of 8 of Martina Namuli's 9 sons, her husband, and 2 grandchildren. For a decade, this was the face of AIDS in Uganda.
It spread like a wildfire. No control, no prevention methods. So the disease was like running across.
Until 1993, the rate of infection soared. But for the last 5 years, that rate has dropped, and in some age groups, it's been cut in half.
Always wear protective condom.
Uganda did what almost no African country has done. It told its people about the virus over and over again, and with brutal frankness.
Just assume that everyone is infected.
On the radio, on billboards that line the highways, in mosques and churches.
It wasn't just the bluntness. It was the multiple settings in which those messages occurred. It was impossible to ignore, and people didn't.
Here, the primary means of transmission is heterosexual sex. Now young people are waiting longer before beginning sexual relationships and having fewer sexual partners. Condom use, once unheard of, has dramatically increased.
And you have to emphasize that for each act of sex, you have to use 1 condom. One only for each act of sex.
David Kenyo and Robbie Kieswa distribute condoms around the country, 14 million last year alone. Their work is subsidized by $5 million in U.S. aid. In a country where parents would not discuss sex with their children, these men now run open-air seminars.
When we get questions from our customers about condoms, that shows that the awareness is improving.
It has become almost routine to speak openly about HIV and sex.
Have you all taken an HIV test? Yes. All of you?
Army Major Rubamira Ruwanga has the AIDS virus. Now he teaches soldiers and others how to stay safe.
There's a lot of learning, and I think that's the reason now why the spread of HIV, at least in the urban areas, has started on the downward trend.
90% of our people know about AIDS.
Uganda is fighting a public information war. For the moment, at least, it's a war this country is winning. Sheila McVicker, ABC News, Kampala, Uganda.
The better news from Africa. That is our report on World News Tonight. I'm Peter Jennings. We hope you have a nice evening, and we'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
Tomorrow, trucks carrying nuclear weapons through your town. Could they fall into the wrong hands? Even the drivers say it's not safe. On World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
This has been a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source. ABC News, now always on.
Mike's always had a